Right. There is a number that lives in most people's heads. It is usually a round number. It is usually slightly higher than what they currently earn, and the entire architecture of their financial life is built around the comfortable assumption that when they finally reach that number, everything will sort itself out. I know this because I had that number for about 15 years. It moved every time I got close to it. Funny that. My name is John. I'm in my mid-40s, I've got 2 boys, a wife who is considerably more sensible with money than I ever was, and a career that eventually paid me something approaching what I once considered proper money. And I started this channel because I kept thinking, somebody should have said this stuff to me at 22, standing in a car showroom with absolutely no business being in a car showroom, nodding along to a man in a shiny suit explaining finance packages. Nobody said it. So I am saying it now. Mostly to my boys, but if anyone else catches it along the way, brilliant. Here is where I want to start. The number in the job advert is not the number that lands in your account. This sounds obvious. It is apparently not obvious because I watch myself and watch people around me build entire fantasies on the gross figure. The headline salary. The one you tell people at parties. Oh yeah, I'm on 55. Sure. After tax, student loan, pension contribution and national insurance, you're on roughly the same as someone on 40 telling people they are on 40, but with a better story and worse cash flow. I remember getting my first genuinely grown-up payslip and just staring at it on the kitchen table like it had done something personally offensive. I had been mentally spending the gross figure for about 3 months. I had a spreadsheet. I had circled things in an Argos catalogue. I had mentally bought a sofa. And then reality arrived in a brown envelope, and the sofa quietly unbought itself. Take-home pay is the only number that matters. The rest is just a story you tell. And even take-home pay is not as spacious as it looks, because every single thing you buy has a cost that is bigger than the price on the tag. This is the one they really do not teach you. Not in school, not anywhere. The price on the thing is just the entry fee. After that, you are paying for the thing forever, in ways that do not show up on the receipt. Buy a car, and you are also buying insurance, tax, fuel, servicing, new tyres every couple of years, and a parking ticket from a council that has genuinely run out of other ideas. Buy a bigger house, and you are also buying higher council tax, a bigger mortgage, more rooms to heat in February when it is 4 degrees and the boiler is making that noise again. Buy a boat. And honestly, there is a saying about boats. A boat is a hole in the water you throw money into. The people who said that owned a boat. They are telling you something. I am not anti-boat. I am pro knowing what the boat is actually going to cost you. The thing that gets me though, the thing I wish someone had spelled out clearly, is what a lot of people are actually buying when they stretch themselves for something expensive. They think they are buying the thing. The watch, the car, the kitchen with the island unit and the taps that cost more than a weekend in Lisbon. What they are often actually buying is the feeling of being the kind of person who has those things. And that is fine. That is human. But it is worth knowing you are doing it, because status, it turns out, is incredibly expensive and has a very short shelf life. I have seen blokes drive off a forecourt in a car that cost them genuinely uncomfortable money, and for about 2 weeks they are glowing. They are finding excuses to park it where people can see it. They are leaving a little earlier than necessary just to have a reason to stand next to it. And then about a month later, it is just the car. It is a thing they sit in on the way to work in traffic on the A14, same as everyone else. The feeling evaporated. The payments did not. I bought a watch once that I had no real business buying. It was lovely. I wore it, I looked at it, I was pleased with it for probably 6 weeks. Then it became the watch I was wearing, and I still had the credit card bill sitting there on the kitchen counter next to a pile of unopened post, quietly existing every single month. Luxury loses its shine quickly. This is not a criticism of luxury. It is just how the brain works. You adapt. The thing that felt extraordinary becomes ordinary almost immediately, because that is what the human brain does with every single improvement in your circumstances, relentlessly and without exception. The sofa you saved for and finally bought feels magnificent for a fortnight. Then it is just the sofa. You sat on it yesterday in your joggers eating toast and did not think about it once. The only thing that does not adapt in quite the same way, the thing that keeps delivering, is the absence of financial stress. That quiet, dull, underrated feeling of just being all right. Having a bit in reserve. Not checking your balance before you do the weekly shop. Not doing the maths in your head in the supermarket. Putting things back at the checkout. Hoping the card does not decline in front of the people behind you. I know that feeling. I have stood in that checkout queue doing that maths. And I can tell you, no watch is worth it. The other thing that nobody mentions clearly enough is that the gap between what something costs and what you can genuinely afford is often bridged by debt. And debt is just future income you have already spent. When you take on a finance package, a credit card, a buy now, pay later arrangement, you are writing a letter to your future self that says, sorry, this month is already spoken for. And that future self, sitting there in 3 months looking at the statement, does not particularly appreciate the gesture. I am not saying never borrow money. Mortgages exist for good reason. There are situations where finance makes sense. But there is a category of borrowing that is just spending money you do not have on things you do not need to impress people who are not paying that much attention, because everyone else is too busy worrying about their own statement. Financial breathing room. That is the thing. I want my boys to understand what financial breathing room actually feels like, because it is almost impossible to describe until you have had it, and almost impossible to appreciate until you have lost it. It is not being rich, it is just not being tight. It is the difference between a problem arising and it being a problem, versus a problem arising and it being an absolute crisis. The boiler packs in and you are annoyed, or the boiler packs in and you are awake at 2 in the morning at the kitchen table under the one working lamp, working out whether to put it on a card you have not used in a year, with a specific, hollow feeling in your stomach that I remember with complete clarity and have absolutely no interest in revisiting. Good habits built early protect a future that feels very abstract when you are young. I know that. 22-year-old me would have read that sentence and nodded and then gone and bought something. Because the future is theoretical and the thing is right there in the shop, and the shop is warm and the finance deal sounds manageable, and it probably is manageable, right up until it is not. But here is what I know now that I could not have known then. The future arrives, every single time, without fail. I am deeply sorry to report this, but it does. And when it does not care what you owned or what you financed, or what the interior of your kitchen looked like in 2019. What it cares about is whether you have got anything left, whether you built anything, whether you made choices that gave you options, or made choices that spent all your options before you knew you needed them. None of this means living in misery. None of this means never buying nice things or treating yourself, or spending money on something purely because it makes you happy. I am not suggesting anyone sit in a beige room, eating soup, and feeling virtuous about it. Life is genuinely short, and enjoyment is genuinely real. It just means knowing what you are actually buying. Knowing the real price, not the sticker, the real price, the full cost, including the months ahead and the interest, and the hidden bills, and the opportunity cost of money that could have quietly worked for you instead of slowly draining out in standing orders you have stopped noticing. If this channel does one thing for my boys, I would quite like it to be this. Not the big dramatic stuff, not the grand wisdom, just this. Before you buy something, sit with it for a second and ask whether you can actually afford it. Not the headline version, the real version, the full version, including what it is going to cost you in 12 months, and whether you are buying something you genuinely want or buying the feeling of something, and whether that feeling will still be worth it when the statement arrives. The statement always arrives.